Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is MOHSEN. Me and my group will demo about penetration testing and code review on the cafe web applications. And this is my team members, which includes Aiman bin Jamaluddin, Ahmad Faris bin Muhammad Kamal, Shakim Muzaffar, and myself, MOHSEN. And now we're going to move on the penetration testing, which is done by me and Shakim Muzaffar.
Okay, first of all, our group decided to do our project based on the cafe application that is provided. So this is the web page. Okay, first of all, we will begin our presentation by doing a vulnerability scan on Zap for the cafe's login page. All we have to do is copy this page link and paste it here on Zap. On the automated scan, and paste it here, and then just press attack. Okay, while we wait, so this process involves Zap to automatically scan for holes in the whole web application. This means Zap will use a crawler by testing around the whole web application to test the functions while scanning for common vulnerabilities like for SQL injection and SSS attacks. As you can see here, we can see at the bottom of the page that what is happening or what Zap is doing. This panel shows the process ID, the request timestamp, or when the process happens, and method used, the URL that is used, the code for error or maybe success or not found, and then the reason, RTT, size response header, size response body, highest alert, not and text. So let's first finish the scan. So this is what it looks like after Zap has finished scanning the vulnerabilities on the page. As you can see in the errors list, there are multiple errors or vulnerabilities that Zap has found. For example, here we have absence of anti-CSRF tokens, and in this particular line. So, and then Zap will also show the description of the vulnerabilities, other info, and also suggested solution. So let's move on.
And now I'm going to demo the SQL injection attack using Zap. First, we have to manual explore, and then we just paste the website, add the link, and then just launch the browser. And here you can see what the page looks like, which is we have the login page. I'm using the login page to do the SQL injection attack. Then we're going to try to put the username and password. Okay, so the website show that it works normally. And then I'm gonna go to the website file and then click the cafe file, and I'm gonna choose the login.php to do the attack. And then here we can see the SQL code, which is we have the username and pass, and then the username and password that I put in earlier. And then we just highlight the admin and then password to add the SQL injection attack. This I'm gonna choose the type. And then here, okay, I will select the type of attack, which is the SQL injection attack, and then I'm gonna add the attack. And I'm gonna do the same with the password. And then we can start the browser. So this process might take a while. And then the state will show the reflected, which means the attack is now successful.
Next, I will be demonstrating CSRF attacks. First, as you can see here in the reservation table, there is only one reservation made with ID 9 and also the user Iqbal. For this demonstration, I have prepared a HTML file to be used. So let's start with a scenario where Muhammad Iqbal, a logged-in user, received a link by a scammer notifying him that he has won a brand new car. So what he will do is he will click the button to claim his brand new car. But actually what happened is the attacker has inserted a new reservation into the database, and it can be seen and proven here with a new reservation with ID 19 under the name CSRF attack and email attacker@scam.com, which means the attacker can use any details that he wants.
Alright, so moving on to the next section, which is code review, which will be brought by Aiman Jamaluddin and also me, Ahmad Faris. In this project code, we have came across one type of vulnerability, which is CSRF, cross-site request forgery. Why are these vulnerable? Firstly, because it doesn't conclude no CSRF token validation. As we can see on those files, there are no CSRF token validation exists, which could to verify where they came from a legitimate source. The second one is it doesn't check the origin or the reference before submitting the form. This is dangerous because since it can affect the whole database. The third one, because it only checks if post data exists. For example, on the line, if it set post reservation, that alone is not enough for a security measure. And lastly, because it can execute delete operation, which are especially dangerous without CSRF protection. For example, on the operation PHP, it includes the function to delete all the records in the database. So how can we mitigate this attack? There are three ways that we can mitigate CSRF attacks, which the first one is to include CSRF helper function on every code. Because this function will generate a random token before the page load, and then it will check the token whether it matched or not. The second one is to insert validation check before processing post data. This is usually when the user submits a form, and then it will validate the data first before posting to the backend. And the last one is to add hidden token in all forms. For example, in one of the forms, I have added one hidden input type, which are this SRF token, which later will then be checked in the database. Moving on to the next attack, we found out that this code also contains cross-site script vulnerability, which, for example, on the menu, reservation, and also info.php file. What are these vulnerable? Firstly, because it contains an unfiltered database output. This is mainly because the database might contain malicious data that user may have entered earlier. For example, they might enter a JavaScript script which could steal the cookie session, which can lead to other attack as well. Secondly, because it contains phishing and social engineering through trusted domain. This is because cross-site script allows attackers to inject fake forms and then manipulate the content that may appear legitimate. The last one is because trusting data source, especially from the reservation PHP and also info PHP. This is because the data coming from the database is a variable which is contained in plain text. This is due to the unsanitized input which the user have entered earlier. By trusting this database, it can allows any script previously that entered by the attacker, which can hijack and also manipulate this whole system. So there are three ways that we can use to mitigate XSS, which is the first one is by using HTML special charge function. By using this function, it can help to convert special characters such as ampersand or double quote into HTML entities. This will prevent any cross-site scripting from occurs. Second one is by input validation and sanitization. This function will check whether user input matches with the format needed, such as numbers, age, or email, before submitting into the form. And last but not least, by implementing content security policy. This line will block any inline JavaScript, such as alert script, and this also allows only trusted script from the trusted domain.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamlin. I'll be explaining the SQL injection of the code review for our cafe web application. So, what is SQL injection? What we can understand from SQL injection is that it is a critical security vulnerability where attackers manipulate database queries by injecting malicious SQL code through user input fields. So rather than inputting a normal username, an attacker can type in special SQL commands that trick database into bypassing authentication, stealing data, or even deleting entire tables. Why is it vulnerable? These applications are vulnerable because user input is directly concatenated into SQL queries without proper sanitation or validation. Let me show you three examples that we have found in the code. Over here, we can see in login.php, there the SQL directly inserts username and password variables into the query string. This, an attacker could enter things such as admin code or code 1 equals 1 code dash dash as the username, which the SQL logic always returns as true, completely bypassing authentication without knowing any password. Next, we can see in register.php, where our worst example is being shown. All 5 user input fields are directly inserted into an insert query with 0 validation. With this, an attacker could put malicious SQL in the name field, such as drop table customer, which could completely destroy the customer table or delete all user data. And lastly, in reservation.php, we can see below here where they are prompted to insert 6 forms of fields directly into the database, that being date, time, person count, username, email, and phone. Any one of these fields can be exploited to manipulate or extract reservation data or even compromise the entire database. Now we'll be moving on to the mitigating strategies. We have 3 key vulnerable strategies, that being use prepared statements with parameterized queries. Second, implement input validation. And lastly, to use the principle of least privilege. Let me explain to you one by one. In using parameterized queries, instead of concentrating user input into SQL strings, we can use placeholders, question marks, or even name parameters and bind the values separately. So this ensures that user input is always treated as data and never as executable SQL code. Second, in implement input validation, this is where we validate that usernames that only contain alphanumeric characters, that email addresses are in proper format, and that dates are valid, and that numeric fields only contain numbers, which provides a defense in depth. And finally, for least privilege, database accounts used by applications should only have the minimum permissions needed. If the application only needs to read and write data, don't give it permission to drop tables or modify database structure. Thank you.